We are back from break and getting set for the fifth and final matchup today. It's featuring two teams. Well, Gaimin Gladiators we haven't seen yet. Nocturns we did, but they had pretty polarizing days yesterday when you compare them one against another. Connor, Gaimin Gladiators, it was a rough first showing.
Yeah, it was off stream and I haven't gotten to watch it yet, but if you just look at the scoreboard for how they got absolutely dominated by Arrow Rise 7-2, and a lot of the score lines were not looking too hot. I believe Arrow went like 8-7, and he was the only one that was even remotely close to being positive. I mean, he was positive, so that's about as close as you can get. But everybody else was like 3-7, 4-7 at best. And when you have a team like this, that you kind of look down the line, you're like, hey, I know all these players. They've hit high challenger league. You've had two former pros in the form of both Quartz and Rudy. Arrow and Jolton, they've been around the block as well as Barring. You gotta think that, hey, they should be doing a lot better.
This was one of the teams when I was talking to you, right before this stage, I was saying, man, this roster's looking exciting. So hopefully it's a one-off. We'll see. I mean, if Aerial Arise has proven anything, it's that the games can go one way or another. You never know what you're going to get from your players. So maybe it's just a one-off. Cookies, Nocturns, another team that can surprise you, and sometimes in the better ways, I guess you could say.
Yes. See, this team's real different.
Pause for dramatic effect.
There's one thing that has remained the same through all of this. It's Mr. P, your highlight player, the leader of the new era of the Nocturns. We have to do something about French Canada. That's what Nocturne said. They got rid of Lackey, got rid of Exod. They brought in Coach Splash. They brought in Doc from Tier 3. They brought in Zeno from Karn's team, Karn Jail, as some would say, because Karn, it's where careers go to die. Just kidding. Zeno's playing a lot better under Nocturnes, under Mr. P, apparently. He's dropped crazy numbers yesterday and kind of turned heads. So much so, none of us thought Nocturnes would be good. Just based on the namesake, Nocturnes, you think mid. But now this team is elite. Now this team is for real. And I think they're primed to disappoint us today. They're going to get slammed by Gaimin, aren't they? Ain't that right? Isn't that how it goes?
I never know what to expect when you get on the mic.
Slothy tweeted at us acting like, why did you pick us, bro? Slothy, if Nocturnes comes out and lays an egg in this game, I don't know what
Bench
they want
him.
out of us at this point.
It's his fault.
It's literally his fault. He tweeted at us, why didn't you pick us to win? Let's see.
It's like, oh no, why didn't we pick the 10th place team to beat the second place team that only had a round differential differentiating them from winning the whole league? Like, oh no. Oh, we're sleeping on Nocturnes.
We're
But they're
sleeping.
proving themselves
We're
now. So
nocturnal,
maybe our
right.
eyes are, we've got like one eye open now. Like we're like half awake, maybe.
What are you guys on? This is the weirdest discussion I think we've had yet, but you know what? I'm not complaining. I'm loving it. Okay. I'm going to get this. It is, yeah. It's a little weird. It's late though. So that does fit the narrative of the conversation. We are getting a bit sleepy, but I'm going to get it back on track. I'm going to wake us up. Gaimin Gladiators. We got to talk about them. Connor, are we seeing round number 2 of the mistake of dropping Beastly from the roster?
Yes.
Yes.
Jolton. This is his karma. It's his karma fully. Especially because you were already mentioning Brim, sleepy, we're all tired, everything's weird, we're sleeping on Nocturnes. Barring was asleep yesterday. He went 2-9 or 3-9, and that's just not what you want out of that caliber of player. He's your player that's going to be making a whole lot of space on the attacking side. He's your first in the building guy, or he's going to be your lurker, where he kind of can help out the other entry, and all of a sudden he can find himself in the bomb site and really almost play like he's on knock, no matter what operator he's on, which CJ, me and you have seen him do so many times.
Yeah, Barring is the resident crouch walker. That's right. Let's talk about Nocturnes, though. Let's talk about them. Poutine eaters, Exod and Lackey. Those guys, for the better part of 2 years, I watched them troll a hologram, Sometimes they'd be nasty and they'd make playoffs or whatever. But for the most part, it was a troll fest. And they would admit to it too, because Exxon's like halfway worried about some real life stuff, halfway worried about the game. Exxon's moved on to greener pastures, got a new job in the corporate world. But today, this critical point is actually incorrect. Lackey's actually coming back, guys, for this game. It would after the epic performance Nocturnes had yesterday. Splash unfortunately suffered an injury, so he will not be playing. Which means we're gonna get shades of the
injuries.
we're gonna get shades.
I knew that was coming.
We're getting shades of the French Canadian Nocturnes coming back because Lackey's gonna be back, and it's gonna be Mr. P, my highlight player. Right, he's gonna have to lead this team to victory in these extenuating circumstances. Can he do it? Because we know Nick's good. His team was terrible last stage. Okay. But this stage, Mr. P has the reins. It's his team. He's the leader. What are they going to do?
He's got a whole lot of firepower that he's wielding.
Aren't they his
He's
friends?
the IGL.
Isn't it Friends Gaming too now? Like, aren't those like his old
It's a
friends?
little
right?
bit. It's like it's a Mr. P T3 team essentially, and
Yeah.
but they look more mature and they look a lot better.
Okay, well, before we even find out what's going to happen in the match, we have to find out where we're going for said match. Connor, take it away.
Gaimin Gladiator immediately banning the theme park makes sense. And the skyscraper from Nocturnes, that's been one of the maps I don't think they've quite really expanded towards, as well as maybe the border could be in their pool, but removing a lot more of the shallow maps for the side of Gaimin Gladiators, like your clubhouses and well as border, would make sense. And then Gaimin kind of bans it for themselves that they don't want to go to clubhouse as well as the Oregon, because they're just scared of the straight up firepower of Nocturnes that we saw get put on display fully yesterday against Aerial Rise. And boom, we're going to bank a lot of space, a lot of ability to get activated on the side of Nocturnes on the roam as well as on the entry. Those LMGs are going to be singing. And hopefully for Gaimin Gladiator's sake, people like Rudy and Jolton on the support are going to be able to really bring themselves forward, as well as Barring can get activated.
Now, we'll get the predictions up, but Cookies, if you had to predict at the beginning of the day that we would have seen 3 banks, would you have taken that over under?
No.
No.
You know what I like Forceful's pick here. That is really ambitious. Why is everyone picking Nocturnes, you ask? Because, like I said, Slothy gaslit all of us into thinking they are going to be the most elite team ever, and that we are the worst production crew in terms of predicting. So yeah, we all picked Nocturnes because he manipulated us. But deep down, I'm kind of feeling Gaimin, especially since Lackey's playing. Lackey's
CJ,
a
I just
troll.
noticed on our 2 pictures that are right next to each other, it's like we're having a conversation. I'm like pointing to you,
Yeah,
and
and
you're
I'm just
looking
like-
towards me. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it looks real presidential, doesn't it?
My favorite part about the pictures is that it's the 2 of you looking professional up on stage, and my picture is in the crowd because I never got to be on that stage.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. I can only aspire. I mean, I've got these 2 great talents on either side of me, so it's no wonder that you guys have been there. But it looks like we are getting ready to get into the final matchup of the game. This one, honestly, even though it was only Forceful going for Gaimin Gladiators, I have to admit, this is an absolute toss-up. I don't know what to expect. Let's get into the 5th match of the game. Gaimin Gladiators taking on Nocturnes, going to bank.
I don't know what NKG did to CJ, but like, I'm sorry. Like, that was, I've never seen a man so hateful against a team like that. For someone who predicted Nocturnes, I have not seen someone have so little confidence in their own prediction. I personally, I do echo CJ on like a lot of his points, to be fair. I have confidence that they can come out with the victory today, at least over a Gaimin Gladiators who lost to the same scoreline that Nocturnes won with yesterday. That's my opinion, though.
You know, if
That's just me.
we have gaming win, I really would think it'd be funny if we all posted the same AO tweet, except all of us voting Nocturnes and then gaming winning, just to have a little fun.
That would actually
Have a
be
lot
so
of fun
funny.
banter. Yeah, have a
That'd
lot
be
of fun
so
banter
funny.
with Slothy because he didn't mean anything bad by it. He just thought it was funny that not a single person voted on NKG.
Well, I
and then
hate
they,
Slothy, John.
smoked Arrow
So
Eyes.
I took a lot of offense to it.
Well, good thing we're the yin and yang then. I guess we have equal balance. And seems like there's a weird balance in terms of bans right now, because we have the Nook and the Osa. Both great operators for Bank, but A, that leads open Thatcher and a lot of other hard breach, but at least the Cade has been banned. So I really don't know what to think about this ban phase, to be
Wow.
honest. I was going to come up
Dude,
with something
this is-
witty, but this is just odd.
Wow.
Kind of cool.
Dude, Thatcher and Hibana are... Well, not even Thatcher anymore. I was going to say Thatcher and Hibana
And
when
Asami
Cade was on the board, but now with Cade gone, you can just open up all of these hatches on Bank for free, especially when, or specifically when Nocturns maybe go to basement. Azami off the board, as you said. I mentioned last game on Theme Park, when I think like Azami and like the maps where like she really like has a lot of really cool spots on, I think of Theme Park and I think of Bank. And she's gone. So a lot of the actually more... Not really like off-meta ops, because Osa isn't really off-meta, Nook isn't really off-meta, but both the operators that we kind of see to bring like a new flavor to the attack are all banned. We're actually going to have like a little bit more standard of a Bank, oddly enough, with no Nook or no Osa on the board. I feel like it's like 6 months ago now.
I really thought with how easy it should be to get the hatches open that maybe Nocturnes are want to go for a full-fledged extension and open up a majority of the hatches, but it does not seem like that. It seems like they want to go for a very anchor stratted setup and just try to hold down the site and use as much utility as they can to slow down gaming. They've got the Goyo Vulcans, which those waste about 20 seconds a pop. You've got the Shimikas, which just playing for range in tandem with smoke grenades can be very effective. So I can imagine really the only extended place we see in the pocket of Nocturnes besides a light roam is probably just going to be top blue and maybe server as well, because that's really the only place you need to strongly hold, especially if you're going for an anchor kind of setup.
Well, top blue can be a little bit difficult to hold, especially with a Thatcher on the board, so that is one thing Nocturnes will have to be careful about, just overall on these defenses. Thankfully for them, Gaimin Gladiators aren't bringing it right now, so if Gaimin do want to push down those blue stairs, or specifically push Lackey off those blue stairs, they will have to use the flashes and use the frag grenades to push him all the way back down. If you see those EMPs come on the board, that is something they will have to be worried about later on. For right now, Gaimin Gladiators might be going for that full clear. We do see the Dokkaebi on the board, so might not try to, probe for a weakness in Garage, but instead start on that top floor, then move all the way down.
Poison eventually beginning to fall back down into sight, and trying to break a couple of drones, work a pick potentially. Who knows? All we know now is that he's fully confirmed to be in the basement at the current moment. Quartz is still doing a little bit of vertical up above, making sure that if there is a roam game present, they will have to fall back or be met by a pretty annoying angle of floor above them. And as of right now, I believe Gaimin Gladiators have fully confirmed that no one's on that top or middle floor, and now they begin to focus all their attention not only on the hatch play, but also trying to flush out Lackey, who is still sitting at the top of blue.
Yeah, with Hibana on the board, they can open up all of these hatches for pretty much no cost whatsoever, and then later use the Selmas to open up the reinforced panel on server wall. So there is just so much hard breaching they can use right now because, well, none of them were banned, and Cade was banned off the board. So this is the benefit of that ban phase already coming through in round number 1. Of course, on the opposite side, you can open up all these lines of sight, but once we start, getting into the dog days and the final minute of the round, those Shumika grenades, those smoke grenades are going to have an impact, but Jolton's already dropped down the elevator hatch and gotten the first pick of the round, taken down the Tachanka, who has so much of that burn, but of course, arrow down later, as well as he might have tried to make a push inside of Garage, but slowly, both these teams making progress in the other's man count, but Gaimin dominantly taking the lead go far. Lackey will move off of server stairs, where he's been stationed the whole round, try to go for a retake on the top floor. Here's one inside a small office. The Sledge not even aware. That's a big angle for him to hold, but that's assuming the rest of his teammates were still alive. He's got 2 important kills so far, but Gaimin have full control of the site and can watch where he's likely to go down, and they have a good idea that Lackey's going to make his claim on main stairs. The bomb now down on the floor. Got one smoke canister, maybe to cut off a line of sight, maybe to stop somebody from pushing on in. Does see one through the wall. Ooh. Excellent shot. That's Rudy gone, and Arrow's low as well. As he moves around the corner, does spot one, but Arrow does him in the end. That came a little bit too close to comfort for Lackey's re-debut into CL, but Gaimin still come off of a very good attack with the victory.
One of the biggest problems that you always run into when you're going for a full-fledged anchor play, like we just saw by Nocturns, is how much time your opponents are going to have to set up and eventually hit the bomb site, with probably around a minute or so left to spare, sometimes down to 40 seconds, but that's still very favorable for the offense, especially if they have info on you, if they still have grenades, and if they are still at a 5-on-5, or end up getting the man advantage on one of your only players that can properly stall for time now that you've had a majority of your Vulcan packs already destroyed that are on that portion of the map, and that your Smoke of Lackey has had to use his smokes very early in the round just to try to keep Gaimin Gladiators at a safe distance towards the early round. And because we had Poison die first, losing out on all 14 of those Shamika launchers, it was just a recipe for disaster. Gaimin Gladiators immediately took advantage of that man advantage and lack of util/stall, and they found pretty huge success. And although things got close in a 1v2, Lacking just still could not clutch in that situation.
Now going to CEO and Office. This is definitely a site that we're going to see probably suffer from that Azami ban. The ability to just, send those Kiva barriers on, say, like the banana double windows, to just have basically shields to play off of, deny lines of sight, say, on those windows, or even make square a little bit more playable to extend a little bit past the vending machines. Azami provides a lot of flexibility on the site, and now that she's gone, we're going to see a lot more traditional modes of play come out. Lackey sitting behind that shield, as will Mai. A Castle coming back in the lineup as well. So again, another impact of that Azami ban coming through, and honestly, John, this has actually been one of the more impactful ban phases I've seen in a bit, in terms of just like shifting the meta back almost like an entire 3 months.
Yeah, because Osa is so impactful on trying to change up how you want to approach a site. You can go very direct, put down those talent shields, and then you basically get a free entryway into planting that diffuser, especially if you've already dealt with those gas grenades early on, and if there's just no Echo on the board. Although Nocturns have been opting to bring out the Echo both rounds so far, at least it is that a piece of safety, I suppose, if there was an Osa on the board. But having your bandits, not too much of a problem. What is a problem, though, is trying to deal with both these Argus cameras for the side of Nocturns and also the Yokai for the side of Gaimin Gladiators.
Fortunately, Arrow misses the 0 shot from that camera, so the Yokai survives the main lobby for the time being, but still good progress being made by Gaimin Gladiators on other sections of the map. That right panel, that right wall in front of CEO opened up, so you have an angle to look on inside and to deny anybody from playing, or at least get an angle on anybody who's playing inside of Connector or playing inside of Banana. Overall, for Gaimin Gladiators, they haven't dedicated to an exact push just yet. They've opened up some positions, but still come from either main or square right now.
Well, Rudy eventually notices the player that is still stuck in the back of elevator, or at least just set up there. He's not essentially trapped. He can move out if he wants to, but he's in a pretty good spot to just feed information to that player over near front desk to potentially allow an early swing. A drone destroyed. Doc acknowledges his position as well known, and currently, instead of watching down through gold stairs, he's just looking all the way down into the hard breach. Lackey finds the first entry, but there is a quick trade by Barring, keeping us at even until Barring gets hyper-aggressive.
He just pushes on up, and Doc falls as well. Worried about somebody pushing up Marble, and that worry was well-founded, though not the shots. They were not well-placed. He falls to the Echo. That's an important position for Slothy to retake as well. Keep control of that long hallway. Now Rudy has to get off Rappel and actually get into the fray. The other two attackers stuck outside on Rappel right now. So if they're trying to, stake this round on jumping in, with Rudy gone as well, there's only courts to cover, but Joel makes it inside, and makes it inside alive, with some information on the Echo as well. A very nice shot on the Slothy, takes the head off of the Echo. Now Quartz hops on in as well. The C4 misses. They might actually be able to get the bomb down inside of B if they're able to take down either Xeno or Poison. Poison played close. They both give themselves away, but Jolton stays alive. With only 4 seconds left, he runs on out, picks up one, but Xeno, he will win on time.
And not having any information as to where Poison has fallen back from, it grants a redemption round over on the side of Nocturns. Not having enough coverage and not having enough information that a flank was afoot as well, it gave a golden moment for Nocturns to actually be able to bring back from that slight disadvantage they had, and a pretty darn difficult spot to actually win that round if the diffuser had gone down, since there was not a lot of time left to reattempt that defuse and no one was actually covering the lone ace. It allowed for Nocturns to take away that round and now equalize us going into the third one.
Will hop down to open area after their victory, not trying to go back to basement after that first round, but still a lot of the same operators that we've seen up until this point. Mainly the Echo and the Castle, which we saw in a couple different areas, but we saw the Echo and the Castle last time. Might still see maybe Doc play upstairs, place a few of those castle barricades to aid an extension inside of Executive or inside of Office as well. Likely Poison will maybe stay closer to the site, use some of those yokais, save them for the plant like you wanted to later on. What I'm looking at is how they deal with this quad panel. We see Slothy putting all those bandit batteries on it. They had impact grenades from Lackey, but now those are gone. So once Gaimin Gladiators deal with those bandit batteries, they don't have to worry about the normal impact trick that we see on this site to defend that wall.
That could allow for a much easier execute. You would hope so when there isn't really much to stop the wall from getting opened up to begin with. But to actually go in for that default execute you see on that quad wall, there is a lot of the map you have to clear out. So having operators like the Lion, for example, having Arrow rock that operator, it can allow for a much faster approach, especially when you are going from top to bottom, and also still having Quartz on that sledge to apply vertical pressure as well and force back some of that roam game on the middle floor. It can definitely allow a lot of opportunities to be scouted for by Gaming.
Quartz already making his way in. One player just dashes away underneath the hole his sledgehammer opened up down below inside of Archives. It's Doc right now playing in that area. Slothy off-site as well, but he was all the way down in the basement before, so quite a few defenders for Gaimin Gladiators to hunt down, seek out, and deal with. That's up to their discretion, but at least gain the intel to find them. Yokai dealt with very early on. Excellent intel gathering by Gaimin Gladiators to not allow that to rotate back and maybe become a thorn in their side in the late round.
Again, especially since you can end up wasting a lot of your own time because of how much of the map you have to clear out, less actual plant denial is going to be huge for Gaimin Gladiators, especially when you normally get that quad wall opened up towards the last, 40 to 30 seconds being lenient. The first of many Lion scans gets popped as well, maybe to help out Quartz on this vertical. Anyone forced to stand still could allow for him to find an easy kill, but so far, still remains that 5-on-5 going into the second half of the action phase.
Lackey suffers quite a bit of damage. Phase 1 put him to half, Phase 1 put him to low, and Phase 3 does him in against Sparring's LMG. The Quartz takes down Doc just a little bit prior. That's basically all of the defender's presence inside of Teller's Archives done and dusted. Slothy was on Marble for just a couple seconds, but he rotates all the way back and will likely try to move back up blue to aid the site players.
1 minute left to go, and now that you've lost a lot of your manpower at this point, things are looking quite swell for Gaming, and they're still taking their time, gathering some light information, rotating around the map. You've got someone over near the single window, I believe it to be. This really is a match made in heaven, but no one's acknowledged the flank, and because of that, Slothy is able to shut down Arrow.
Ooh, big oversight by Gaimin Gladiators right there, but still some time to compensate for it. Ooh, Poison tags up Jolton with just a couple bullets through the wall outside of that copy window. A little bit of a dangerous play to worry about. See many a defender get wallbanged through that same area, so be fitting if Poison gets some comeuppance through that same wall. Gaimin Gladiators will now spot Slothy down below, and as he sends up the C4, he's put down and finished off by barring, so only the site players, but quad wall was not opened up. They have to either move through these castle barricades, and that's likely what they have to do, but what do you know? There's a deployable shield sitting on the opposite side of that, with Zeno ready and waiting to play off of it. There goes one, there goes two with the DMR spray. He might be the only one left, but Rudy's got the fusion, he's low, and Zeno wins it! What a massive play behind that shield! Excellent argument for Zeno to take the lead.
And I believe they were just going to try to rush in, find that frag, but the ace realized, wait, we have site control. We have diffuser. It's just the Aruni. I can fall back and plan and force this Aruni to come to us, but he just took way too long to realize that, went for the 180 flick around, had his gun down, allowing Zeno to line up the final two and secure a beautiful 1v4 clutch. The patience behind the deployable shield and picking the perfect moment to strike saved the skins of Nocturns and still keeps them in the lead, Carter.
That was mind-blowing for Zeno right there. Of course, they have to go down. They do have to go back down to basement, which Gaimin Gladiators seem to have a pretty good hold on back in round number 1. But definitely that is a momentum booster right there after Zeno making that huge play. Gaimin Gladiators sticking with their lineup, though. The right as I say that, Barring switches from the Finca, goes to the Jackal, and Arrow picks up the Finca. So no Zero, which can actually be very useful in setting up some flank cams and watching maybe Marble or Server Stairs, which we did see Lackey try to retake from their last time. So there is some argument to be made for keeping that Zero on the board. But since they're worried about a lot of roamers off-site, which the reinforcements and the positioning right now, I think they're well-founded in that regard. Barring might be able to find some uses with that Inox.
Yeah, the Jackal can definitely speed up the process of making Nocturns to making them fall back a little earlier. in the round and force him to, of course, try to make that first proactive move in terms of repositioning. We already have Quartz up on the double window rappel, just waiting for anyone to maybe overswing towards him on this top floor, and also waiting on the calls by barring as well. Rudy droning in through janitor hallway, does not spot anyone except a couple of mute jammers and a Banshee as well. But so far, it's pretty good team play by Gaimin Gladiators. They shined really well when actually clearing out that top and middle floor presence last round, except they just messed up a little bit towards the final play when dealing with Zeno. I think they're not going to try to make that exact same mistake twice, and they're just still taking their sweet time, hoping they can work some sort of one against Lackey.
Well, Lackey unfortunately works a one against Gaimin Gladiators. Quartz dumbfounded at that one. No pick goes Nocturns, or goes Gaimin Gladiators' way right now. They at least spot him, though, John. They know where he is now, but damage is already done. And Lackey has gone back down to the first floor, where the meat of this roam is for Nocturns. Pretty much everyone and most of the utility is all on this middle floor.
Well, Doc begins to fall back. We're just trying to go fishing through some cams perhaps, and maybe giving the call that Zeno might want to join him rather soon. Lackey's still playing a little aggressive though, over near Marble Stairs. He gets spotted out by a drone and eventually destroys it, but still having the option to maybe get hyper aggressive the next few moments could be huge for Nocturns, but it probably is better just to give up that position and just play for the fact you already have this man advantage.
Barring starting to creep down, but definitely dissuaded against that play after he's put to below half HP by the players inside of lockers right now. Still hold a little bit of a tight angle to look on in, but definitely not going to swing as brazenly as he did before. Lackey's itching for a fight, though. Sitting close on that doorway, waiting to swing around, but he's spotted on the opposite side of that wall. He'll even cross and swing and run even closer to that as the yokai goes on in. Oh. He takes the fight. The absolute gall of Lackey right now to play as aggressive as he is. Spotted on low HP, even going for the retake on the middle floor. He's taking down a drone. Hopefully they know he's in small office, but where is Arrow looking? He hears the shots, but he's looking the complete wrong way. Gaimin Gladiators cut their losses, but Jolton is looking to end this round and give it to Nocturns. Playing for the opposite team. Ops everywhere nowadays. Nobody is aware of what Nocturns' next move is.
An unfortunate mercy killing done by the hands of none other than Jolton, trying to get the back wall opened up and trying to find at least some damage against Nocturns, but nothing was going Gaimin Gladiators' way on that round. They couldn't deal with Lackey despite having multiple assets up on that top floor, and even when there was full-fledged information on the Malusi's position, not only with the Inox scanners that the Jackal provided and a drone that someone was actively watching, it just wasn't enough. The information dried up almost immediately, and we had Lackey go for the opposite. Instead of falling back and playing the safe game, he wanted to double down. He wanted to swing. He had the coordination with both himself and Poison with the Echo Yokai, and with the fact that I guess the Twitch just misheard the sound call and still assumed that the Moose would be closer to beepers, it allowed a third to be found by Lackey and basically forced the point of no return for gaming on that round.
Big play from Zeno, followed up by a huge play from Lackey, or at least probably a flashy play from Lackey, because, you know, Zeno had to clutch it out. That was just BM from Lackey right there. No need to go as hard as he did retaking that middle floor. And yet, he decided to. We'll go back up to CEO afterwards, where things weren't all well and good for Nocturns, at least in terms of, like, you know, exciting stuff. They still were able to keep a fairly solid control on this round, which is helpful that Gaimin Gladiators were pretty much outside for all of it.
Seems like Gaimin Gladiators want to opt for the same composition they had when CEO was last in play. Maybe for Nocturns, they want to have a bigger emphasis on some sort of roam or just setting up to maybe go for a late rotation. I believe earlier in our day today here at NACL, we had somebody actually go for a Nitro Cell play underneath in the final 10 seconds to stop a default plant from going down. And with the fact that Poison is opting for that mute pick, having that C4 and having the shotgun for extra self-destruction as well could definitely allow that to happen. But again, hyper situational. That's if Gaimin Gladiators can even set themselves up correctly to put themselves in the post plant, which they did last time, but now that Nocturns have a pretty smart idea as to what Gaming want to do here, they might be a little wiser about that.
Yeah, X-Kairos placed on that Kanto wall, opened up already to make Slothy's life a little bit more difficult. He's trying to play in that elevator position. Jolton now hops on in as well, but nobody is downstairs right now for him to deal with, so he could take this control for free. Yokai, or the adventures of the Yokais inside of main lobby will continue, but this time it's tucked deep inside that teller's desk instead of just brazenly out in main lobby. So not much happening just yet. We can put another Summit Charge to open up that wall completely and give whoever is sitting on that garage full line of sight down that hallway.
Trying to guarantee they can eliminate this Echo, as that's one of the only main sets of denial that you have for that plant. And also with where you have Slothy playing at, he can feed tons of information on anyone who's trying to help him out, deal with any players trying to work their way up gold stairs. So it's a high value target to find in this next minute 10, especially if they want to have this gold stairs play actually work.
Still not much for Gaimin Gladiators beyond that wall being opened up, though, as Barring stations himself an elevator, rips a nade for a second, and Slothy
Smart.
drops as a result. Beautiful play by Barring to bait that out from Slothy, and with those Yokais gone, or at least not able to be moved like they were before, excellent overall now that Slothy is gone. The Poison has now put himself down below as well, so while one rotates down and dies, the other takes the position, but Barring will just send it as a result. Knows that one is in stock, wins the heads-up gunfight. The Poison gets the trade, unread by Barring on that marble stairs. Still only him and Xeno left in the 4v2. One puts Rudy down to low HP, so a little bit better, as there's another player now rappelling into CEO. That's the Yana, who catches Xeno completely off guard. What's Poison to do? Well, die through the wall, as Gaimin Gladiators get their second.
And with the fact we had Barring off the bat eliminate, again, that high-value target of the Echo stacked up an elevator with a really smart play. Once you hear that nade get procced, there is really no point of return. Your best option is to just drop the hatch and hope their nade is still in the hand so you can actually find a free gunfight and then get out of elevator the way the grenade does not blow you up, and you still have a chance to work your way up marble stairs and go for just a different angle to try to slow down anyone walking up gold. Barring was fully aware of that, so he just baited the nade and got a free kill on the Echo because, of course, the suppressed MP5 is going to be way worse against a LMG that hits like a freight train. So that's your first entry for Gaming, and then we still had that gung-ho style of play by not just Barring, but the rest of his team. Barring found a second kill, and Gaimin Gladiators were immediately quick to just hop up into the top floor, continue that aggression, and just get total domination on that top floor.
Well, total domination, though, John. Not something that for Gaimin Gladiators has always worked out. As this site was evidence of previously, because, well, it was a 1v4, and 4 did not win it. Even though, by the way, that Gaimin Gladiators not only didn't open that quad panel at all, they had to destroy the castle barricade, and they didn't even destroy the shield Xeno was playing behind. And
They
yet
had
still,
time and resources too, though.
They had time and resources, but what happened? Xeno killed them all, so it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter. Now he's on Valk. He's decided, I was playing in site as a Rooney before. Nah, I'm getting active. I'm getting mobile.
Don't blame him. These are the only 4 kills that he has found was playing on this side in particular and just having a better read against Gaimin Gladiators, although, like we had mentioned, that was in the site, not just throughout the whole map altogether. He'll retreat back downward, but pre-placing a C4 in case anyone wants to hop over inside of stock through the windows, or they just want to walk into that part of the map to get the hatch open to go for the exact same hatch drop we saw last time the site was in play.
First EU1D goes out, but not much movement from Gaimin Gladiators, or at least not an increase in movement, as they already took control of that top floor. Nobody from Nokturns is really up there all that much. Ooh, just barely misses the Yokai moving back down, but Lackey goes on up with the Z-Pings, looking to continue to get aggressive. I mean, after all, he's just subbing in right now. He can do whatever he wants. The pressure is not on him. He wants to get active. Hey, go for it. Pressure is off on you, buddy, coming in last minute. Beyond that, still a 5v5 right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, might be able to hear the audio call that someone is actually opening up that stock window, but no one hopped in. Having the ranged hard breach allows you to get the hatch open in a pretty safe spot altogether. A C4 was just shot out of the air moments ago from the hands of Slothy, and now Poison tagged up very low in HP, has to make a decision of when he wants to fall back and where he wants to set up at. That way he doesn't get finished off and cannot utilize those Yokais.
Ooh, 2 kills fly on the scoreboard at the exact same time, both one for Game and one for Nokturns. The one with the gun, one with the nade. Quartz goes in for the second, but it's on the opposite side of the desk, so Slothy is safe and sound, hiding behind the refuge of the filing cabinets. waiting for the drop as well down stock. As you can see, whoever's sitting up there, Jolton, or no, Barring, I believe, he's prepped and ready for it. Got some final bit of intel, but he'll rotate on over. So game install once again.
40 seconds left, and Rudy eventually begins to drop down. There is still time to gather information, and at least some of the bandit batteries have been destroyed by, I would assume, a grenade. So we have this quad wall opened up, but are they aware of Doc's position? That's the big question going in this final 30 seconds.
Jolton gets that first pick with the quad wall opened up. They are completely aware of Doc's position, and that is the site open and ready for the taking. Rudy also outside on copy window. All that's left is for Lackey to get one impactless frag as Gaimin even in the early 2-round deficit.
Still able to fish for tons of information, and although the ban phase was rather odd and we tend to see this map be rather defender favored, I would say a 3-3 split is not too bad at all for Gaimin Gladiators. They seem to really throw a wrench in the machine of Nocturne a lot of rounds, and honestly, if they probably had played a little bit better against Xeno, this most definitely could have been a 4-2 split. So for Gaming, I wouldn't be all too worried going in the second half. They just need to keep the exact same tempo they've been showing so far in that first half.
Well, starting out on basement and looking to get a little aggressive on that top floor would be a good way to keep that momentum going. Barring going to the Oryx, you'll have some intel to play off of wherever Jolton decides to place those black eye cameras. Definitely a good lineup to keep that momentum going with, getting aggressive on that top floor, holding it out, trying to go 1-for-1 in some angles. But at the same time, on Nocturne's side, we see a Ying come out from Slothy, so likely not trying to take this one quick. They're not trying to go for a rush in all likelihood, but definitely once they get these hatches opened up with that Hibana, they are not trying to waste too much time in between Gaimin Gladiators seeing the situation developing and that situation actually coming into play.
Always a big fan of the Oryx pick, especially in the hands of Barring, someone who has been shooting pretty darn straight so far, at least in the first half. Having the replayability of just hopping for a hatch and potentially retaking the top floor from an unknown position could pay dividends, especially if Nocturnes takes a little too long in terms of actually clearing out this top floor. There is a lot of eggs stacked up in this basket here, not only by just the players' positions, but also the sight lines that have been made via those shotgun holes, and also, again, those hatches opened up to help enable Barring to get hyper-aggressive in round 7.
He's already got one player to contest with if he wants to. Somebody outside on that connector rappel. Barring waiting to take the gunfight, though it's Quartz that strikes first. Lackey drops to the floor. No LMGE 150 round mag for the remainder of round 7. The Dokkaebi calls. Those are still alive. Those will go through and maybe even reveal Barring's position to Doc if his ears are keen enough. He doesn't react right now. He's just looking to see if anybody rotates in. He's not trying to give away this position or give away his life just yet, but neither is Barring. Both the Oryx and the Sledge at a stalemate right now in a staring contest with neither looking to blink.
But he does not have to do a single thing. The more time he wastes against Doc, that's one less set of grenades, that's a lack of vertical, that keeps your roam game alive and well. And when you've got the man advantage and you have Nocturnes start to struggle to try to work that refrag, it's going to pay dividends for the longer amount of time that we can have Barring just keep Doc at bay.
There are only 2 players on site right now, so that is something that Gaimin have to be careful of. Nobody in garage as well, so this is a very good bit of control that Xeno can have. Just looking into red, looking into lockers, seeing if anybody rotates across, but Jolton might be aware of that possibility. Some Candelas go through, so players drop as well, but the defenders, they go back to rotate back, but now, never mind, Doc is down below as well. Same with Slothy. Barring goes down too. Arrow, who stayed steadfast in his position, does find Doc through one of those hatches. That means Quartz. Effective 1v3 on site at the moment. Xeno is ripe for the pickings on 1 HP. Arrow finds himself joining his teammate at about just a little above half. Bomb goes down successfully. So Xeno is looking to be the first to fall. Never mind, it's Slothy. Arrow getting active all the way inside of CCTV. This is a 1v2 of just one of their 2 remaining Gaimin Gladiators players. Lands their shot on the Dokkaebi, but Poison's facing a lot of trouble. Very difficult to deal with Arrow. He doesn't even finish him off, only downs him. And Quartz goes to stick. What a great move. No poison drop. He can react in time, but as Quartz falls off, he can't see through the wall. And Poison gets what I suppose, John, is a 1v2, if you count Arrow being downed.
And I'm glad we had Nocturnes just fully readjust. They noticed, well, we're not making all that much traction trying to clear out top to bottom the old-fashioned way. Let's just fully rotate. Since we know there's a handful of people that are still off-site, we could probably just bombard the defenders with players, or, yeah, bombard the players with just a bigger amount of numbers, I suppose, and still get site control, get that diffuser down, and force the defenders to go for a retake, which we all know that can be incredibly difficult in a game like R6. So it really did pay off for Nocturnes to just take a second to breathe, reevaluate the situation, and completely flip the script on that round.
Now Gaimin going to open area, not trying basement a second time. Nocturnes will likely have to push through a much more concerted effort on that roam. Because, of course, you know, we had Arrow, we had Jolt, and we had these players sitting in the middle floor. But once there was some attacking players starting to move into the site, they dropped down pretty quick. Here, I imagine Gaimin are going to hold a little bit more rock solid on that top floor. They certainly have the intel to do it. They also have the utility to do it with those castle barricades coming through. Even some mute jammers if Jolton wants to place them up there, but might not be. Certainly also be some presence inside of lockers. So on both the middle floor and the top floor, a lot for Nocturnes to consider.
Nocturnes still potentially, at least at the beginning of this round, trying to go for the old-fashioned take of getting that top floor control, establishing vertical, and then probably hitting the site. And no need for any primary hard breach. You've got 2 secondary breach in the pocket of both Slothy and Poison, and not having to worry about the Kaid, it does allow that double hard breach play to actually work, and that can allow you to be even more creative during that execute. You still have someone on the flank watch, that being Slothy, of course, with those Argus cameras, and then Poison with the Candelas, which, although they weren't incredibly effective last round, if you can already deal with that roam game and then just all begin to hit the site at the same time, it could be a recipe for complete chaos against Gaming.
Oh, Lackey almost loses his life to Barring, but he in turn loses it to Doc. Not aware, or at least the Legion not aware of the possibility of somebody on rappel, gives himself up to that angle, and that forces Arrow's hand. He has to drop back down now, lest he wants to probably aid to the man advantage that Nocturnes would likely solidify had he remained on that top floor.
Jolton potentially waiting to prep a Nitro Cell to toss out. The black eye camera was still alive for a few moments, eventually shot out as I believe the blue hue was detected, and Jolton not wanting to worry about any of that verticality we tend to see when this middle floor site is in play. He just reinforces the rotate hull so he can give up archives and not really be all that concerned. The main thing to be worried about though is you can still have a little bit of vertical play directly in the site of open area, and again, with some hard breach still being available, that hatch can get opened up. It's another avenue of approach here in this 5-on-4.
Curious to see if anybody from Gaimin will decide to challenge it with how much progress Nocturnes are making in the first half of the round, and now as we move to the second half, there's only a lot more options for them to exploit, but Jolton, he's sitting below one of those openings, not challenging it. Doc spots him pretty easily. That's a C4 now gone. Nocturnes can start getting to work on these hatches as well, and any further vertical play, just hold the flank for the time being until you're ready to move on.
Great patience here by Xeno, guaranteeing that no one can go for a heroic play and be able to try to salvage this round altogether. 50 seconds to go, still tons of information, and really, Carter, it's just only a matter of time before we see these Candelas start flying out across the site and Nocturnes to get hyper-aggressive.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking to swing things in one favor or the other. Whether those Candelas hit and Rudy and Quartz are blinded, or if they miss and they can still swing. There is also a second factor to consider. Era's playing an elevator right now. I'm not too sure how aware or how focused Nocturnes are on dealing with this. The Candelas go through, but Poison, he meets nothing. It's all silence aside from those Candelas. Gaimin Gladiators have resigned themselves to playing retake, and they certainly can off those Yokais. The Quartz gets off, and with the last bullet in that mag, or the last bullet before he reloads, he takes down Lackey. Those LMGs start ringing. They start singing. The pistol gets involved as well. They just go for the kills. They said, screw the plant. Let's win this out by elimination and solidify our lead to 5-on-3.
I'm not too sure if we managed to catch a glimpse of it, but I thought for a moment there was somebody, that being a defender, on top of the hatch, and with that combination of both having someone go on a last-second flank and having to still worry about those Yokais, I think Nocturne just acknowledged, well, it's probably better for us to actually utilize this man advantage in a more proactive way and just try to run at the last couple of defenders, because we know where they're set up at. We can probably still find these last couple of kills with the last couple of seconds we have left on the round and still get the win outright to get a little bit closer to match point. Only one round away here for Nocturnes, and so far they've been looking pretty good on their attacks, in particular their end game, because they are not worried to, like I said earlier, flip the script and just change something up completely just to scrape away a win against Gaimin Gladiators.
I mean, going to basement, exactly. They were just like, okay, you know, we've been putting a little bit of pressure on players off-site. We spent a whole minute just having a staring contest between Doc and Barring, but we found an opening inside of server. Let's just move on in. Doc, go and send it. They're all focused on denying maybe a vault play or an elevator drop or rushing in through main stairs. Let's just move on in, cause chaos, and then once they go for the retake, we can pick them off because we're expecting it as well. That was really how Gaimin Gladiators lost it. They had a lot of players on the roam, and then once they dropped to stop the players on the site, Nocturns were like, okay, we expected you to do that. Now you're locked in with us and boxed in by our very own players. It's a similar lineup coming out from Gaimin Gladiators as well. Jolton's still rocking the Valkyrie, Barring's still rocking the Oryx, and Arrow's still rocking the Castle. The 3 operators that were mainly on this roam before, where, I mean, they wasted some time up top. Doc was dissuaded from rappelling in for a bit. Really didn't have that much impact in the long run of basement, even though it came down to the wire towards the end. That was mainly just due to the site players making a big comeback.
It just seems in terms of adaptation, Gaimin Gladiators have been much slower in that department against Nocturns, who are completely willing to change up everything they were going to try out with step 1. Once that fails, they just go to step 2 through 5, or even a plan B to some extent, and it really does confuse Gaimin Gladiators to a certain extent, or at least puts them in a position where they're not very likely to win the round outright. So far, though, we have not needed that plan B just yet for Nocturns. They are still trying to get this top floor control, still having Doc on the window rappel. Eventually, he'll go and drone himself in, and across the ways, we've got Xeno on top of the roof, maybe getting ready to hop down in towards stock or square a doorway just to add another angle for the defenders to deal with on this top floor.
I like this change for Barring. Before, he was playing on the long desk, just trying to contest that window, but there, instead, he was trying to look all the way over to square, but he gives it up very quickly once he starts facing some intel gathering and direct pressure from Doc. He'll move all the way back to elevator. Again, being a little bit more active with this fallback. Active and sure, he's moving backwards, but I had a whole point I was going to talk about, and then he just died, so, I mean, there's no point.
At one point, he was dodging bullets like Neo from the Matrix, and then his superpowers just ran out, and he died.
I was literally gonna say, like, okay, and then now he can drop, and they keep them guessing, you know, keep wasting 10, 15 seconds at a time. Then Doc just peeked and killed him. So, like, unlucky,
nope.
I guess.
Not gonna happen. You've got Quartz and Jolton on the first floor. There's something still capable for gaming, but again, you have to be pretty conservative on when exactly you want to go for that play, and maybe try to go for a fallback altogether. Saving that Nitro Cell to maybe stop that plant, at least in the pocket of Quartz, could be very pivotal, especially since in general he's been one of your top fraggers so far in your team.
Nocturne's still taking a little bit of time to put pressure on this middle floor. Xeno has now moved past beepers, and he's got a drone actively in front of them. But yep, right as he starts moving towards that double door, they said, all right, let's cut our losses, play for some C4s, play for some plant denial. I mean, John, they have wasted a whole 2 minutes before Nocturnes can actually hit the site, so probably a good idea.
Not too horrible at all. The only main issue is that you're just down a gun. That's truly it. And another thing to worry about too is that Nocturnes, they have a plethora of utility. Multiple stuns. They've got smoke grenades as well. 3 sets of frags on top of that too. They really are bound to throw everything, and potentially including the kitchen sink at the defense in these last 30 seconds.
That's pretty interesting though. It changes the position of a Valk Cam to try to play off it in the late game, but he uses a C4 there, and they've completely missed Poison putting the bomb down. A missed C4, and Rudy misses the default smoke as well, letting Poison get the plant off completely unscathed and even kill him for his transgression. Arrow on basically 1 HP. Well, I'm not even quite sure where he is right now. He's all the way on the top floor. Floor number 2. Not even retaking on the middle just yet. That leaves Quartz with a lot of work to do down below, and I mean, Arrow's not even looking at anything right now. He peeks marble stairs un-ADS'd. What a disaster of a round for Gaimin Gladiators as Nocturnes hit match point.
Still just quicker on the draw, I suppose, for Nocturnes, as they have found little to no trouble on this second half so far, with their attacks being incredibly fluid. We've seen them win the opening duel now twice in a row, that being just Doc on the sledge, and just being able to transition that man advantage and all the util they've been saving up over time to a very clean and crisp execute. Although, a major reason why they've been getting away with a lot of these clean executes in the final 20 seconds or so is because, again, the lack of proper adaptability by gaming. If we had that smoke grenade tossed out a second earlier, if not for those Candels, I believe it to be, or just the lack of sound, I suppose, knowing if the plant was going down or not, and also the lack of a Nitro Cell because it was just tossed in a completely different direction, expecting somebody up on that top hatch, it could have potentially stalled out Nocturne for a little while, and maybe, just maybe, we could have seen a round win by Gaimin Gladiators altogether. But because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, Nocturnes now at least guarantee match point and potentially overtime if Gaming can come back 3 rounds in a row.
At least their lineup, they got a solid opportunity to do it. They've only got one deployable shield and sure, plenty of castles, but those were Terror drones on the board. You have a couple of nades between Xeno and Doc as well. They have the utility to deal with this setup, but it's really been a matter of dealing with, one, the anchors, and two, the roamers that then rotate back to site. That is where Nocturns have really been able to really shine so far on their attacks, and Gaimin have not really been able to hold out very much in the long run. Nocturns, I imagine they'll probably go for, a similar play to what we saw Gaimin do. Just try and sit rappel on those windows, maybe find some picks in sight, but then also focus on square to get an opening on one of those reinforcements.
Not gonna lie, I forgot there was no Ying last round. It's been a long night, but you know what? At least it's been a fun ride along the way, I suppose. Nocturne's still up to the same old shenanigans. Eventually, they break that castle barricade, allowing a pretty nice long of sight and potentially allowing a huge cutoff angle just across the site altogether. So Barring has to be very careful as to when exactly he wants to go for the swing. It could be a huge gamble to go for that peak to eliminate Doc, as he has been a pretty powerful player throughout the second half. But if you lose out on the Warden, that's a lot of flashes that are in the pocket of Lacking that could be easily countered. And also the 1.5, it does have a pretty nice optic to go for those long-range gunfights.
This position can actually trip up a lot of attacking teams sometimes, dealing with that mute jammer, dealing with the magnets as well to burn projectiles. Sometimes you'll see teams just do what Nocturnes do, cut their losses and try to take the fight, but as Quartz is falling off, he takes down Poison, but Xeno, he's found an opening. He's taken the kill inside of Janitor, and that's a big spot to hold right now, but he actually has to hold it. He can't fold any bullets through the wall. Doc is trying his best to support, but finally the Finka falls, and Nocturnes, though, they still remain dominantly holding that lead. Maybe not dominantly, but barely holding it in the 3v2. Quartz has retaken Janitor now. Worried that somebody's on the rappel. He's got to be worried about his home base. Doc's in sight. He's running around right now. Arrow's taking care of 1/3 of the remaining attackers. His Lackey drops down on that top floor. But Doc has the sight. Slothy's got to play catch-up, and no, Quartz accidentally falls down. Might not have been an accident, but now they're playing for retake. Nocturnes have full control of the site right now, but I don't think they know it. They certainly don't have control of Case, John.
It only took them until, 10 to 20 seconds to eventually recover that case, giving more time for the defenders to try to retake this top floor. One gets down, that being from the hand of Arrow, leaving Doc in a 1 versus 2. They've got rounds to bleed, but I sure could imagine they want to lock it out now, but they are not able to, via the Omai just creeping his way back up on the top floor and granting Gaimin Gladiators another chance at salvation.
Yeah, that was definitely a round where I think Xeno found a very solid opening, especially after getting that kill, but Nocturnes really just did not have the capital to take full control of site at that point. Doc also worked himself into a position. He got seemingly full control of Office once he got that kill after Xeno got his own. But beyond that, they hadn't opened up many of the panels. They didn't have avenues to push into the site and start going for a plant, so Xeno and Doc were forced to play the waiting game, and Gaimin Gladiators were fortunate enough to win the fights that they took in then pushing Nocturnes back and able to solidify that round later on, even though it came fairly down to the wire. Sadly for them, though, John, that's the first time that a site has worked out for them. They've tried basement 2 separate times as well, and both times they have gone Nocturne's way. The first one did require a little bit of a clutch from Poison. Effectively a 1v2, though basically a 1v1 because Arrow was down on the floor. The second time, though? No. Not at all. Not whatsoever.
Both times this site has been in play, it was 2 completely different styles of play as well for Gaimin Gladiators. We saw them completely bunker up one site, I believe it to be, and then another time they just... Oh no, they've gone on a roam almost every single time. There's actually Nocturnes over and on the first half, but different ways of how Nocturnes has actually been able to readjust their style of play. We saw one time them going in for more of a back push near Vault and also Garage, and also having a more default kind of push where they just kind of walk in from server, get that plant down, and catch Gaimin Gladiators completely off guard. The one constant has been Gaimin Gladiator wanting to commit on this top floor roam every single time, and Nocturnes, they've been more than willing to walk into the fray pretty much every time this bottom floor has been the site for now. And Lacking, he wants to make that first move, hops up into square, and is just waiting for someone to overswing on towards him, but that hasn't been the fact of matter just yet.
And Lackey's cooled off a little bit switching to the attacking half. I think 7 of his 8 kills at a bare minimum were achieved on the defense, but switching to the attack, he's not had the same level of success. Maybe the Jackal will give him something more here. Even then, even if he does get a kill, it can enable players like Xeno to start crouch walk down these marble stairs. Unfortunately for him, that player whose intel and position he had knowledge of, pushed all the way down, retreated back. They don't even know about Arrow either. I think they might have misdroned him as well, but they're still generally doing their due diligence to open up angles inside of tellers and inside of archives to make sure that anybody playing there can't get out, but on that objective, they fail.
Arrow eventually has to give up that position in order to keep himself alive for the latter end of this round. Baring is still in that middle floor, expecting someone to maybe get a little over-aggressive and not know his direct location, allowing that entry to once again try and favor Gaimin Gladiators. But so far, that has not been the case. He even has backup by somebody as well, but Doc, patiently waiting up above still towards the last minute of this round, gets the entry, and the Oryx is a non-factor once again.
Same start we had on that more dominant victory for Nocturns on basement. So if I'm Gaimin Gladiators, I'm a little worried right now. I might start getting active on this middle floor. You do quite a bit of damage to Lackey and just barely rotate back. As Xeno was firing a couple shots saying, hey, if you walk in my line of sight, you will not come away alive. So Forts decides to just not challenge that at all and drop back down. But even here, even when the four remaining players for Gaimin Gladiators survived on the site, there was a lot of misplaced utility and not able to take gunfights with these Nocturnes players before the bomb went down. In only 30 seconds, though, neither of the server walls are opened up, and that castle barricade is still alive. So Gaimin Gladiators have quite a bit of time to get the remaining utility into position and also land those Shamika grenades way ahead of time to just create a pit of fire that Nocturnes, if they want to get this bomb down, have to walk into. They'll start throwing in utility, and Jolton's stuck right below this hatch. Somebody crosses above him as the utility flies above him as well. He might be the single saving grace for Gaimin Gladiators right now. He pops on up, but Lackey shuts him down. Courts, the last one alive to save maybe even a chance of overtime, but everyone from Nocturnes peeks him all at once. He's stuck sitting on top of that nade. He'll get one impactless frag before Nocturnes wins 7-4.
A valiant attempt by Quartz, don't get me wrong, but again, the patience and overall just having everything accounted for there for Nocturnes was the final nail in the coffin for Gaimin Gladiators. Despite having all that utility, having a decent amount of your player base still alive, it just was not enough to slow down Nocturnes. And I guess Slothy is, like what CJ did earlier last game, laughing to the bank as they've got another win in the book so early in Stage 2, and another banger Twitter post I could imagine as well soon.
Yeah. Very nice showing on our third bank of the day. Only one you and I casted, though, so
yeah,
it was like brand spanking new to us. We didn't have to, go through any repeats like they did earlier. But overall, I mean, hey, like you said, Slothy did a little trolling on Twitter, but maybe we should start looking at Nocturnes a little bit more. It only is Playday 2. There's still plenty of time for, well, any of the teams and any of the results we've had so far to look like a mockery of their remaining seasons. But after a very nice showing on Playday 1 and a nice showing on Playday 2, before we throw it back to the desk, maybe Nocturnes are on the upswing in Challenger League Stage 2.
Well, this was a fantastic match to round out the day. I just want to say, though, it was very interesting going along, Cookies. At least what I felt, the sense that I got was that whoever won each round, it was pretty lopsided. Now, in the end, obviously, Nocturnes came out on top, and it was a 7-4. But early on in those rounds, I was wondering, like, each team would have a big round, and the next team would have a big round, and it was really difficult to decipher the direction that this game was taking.
Yeah, I think we should start a dialogue. I'm ready to start a dialogue right now. Okay.
That is our job, yeah, is the dialogue, yeah.
See, because, like, quite frankly, maybe CDAPS will have something more to say on this, but I think it is absolutely hard and very difficult to centrally quantify how a Nocturnes team with the sub and what they were facing today. They wanted to come in with their full 5. They were upset about it. Twitch chat. They let us know. Let that be known. And the fact that they still came out and kind of punched Gaimin Gladiators in the mouth, the team that's supposed to be favored and has all the old veterans, the Barings, the Courts, they just kind of took care of business. That Xeno clutch was insanity. It was insanity. And Xeno is just Xeno is reborn on this Nocturnes team. They might outpace teams like LSR as the stage goes along. That's my hot take. Especially
not that hot of a take.
Splash plays. It's not that hot. Thank you, C-Daps.
Not that hot of a take. Because this game right here, you said maybe I've got some more analysis. It's two things. 1 and 1. one for the side of Gaimin, one for the side of Nocturnes, because Nocturnes are coming out and they have a lot more firepower. And maybe, like you were saying on your critical points, are they better than without Nyx? Maybe too many cooks. It's kind of returning back to the roots of Mr. P, as well as just overall the way that Nocturnes are attacking is really good. Because
Mhm.
guess what? 9 attacks, 1, 2 lost. That's a pretty dang good number, a pretty dang good ratio. And the other thing is Gaimin Gladiators. Poor Gaimin Gladiators, they have the curse. They have the curse indeed, because Jolton did the same thing that destroyed the Kansas City Pioneers after becoming runners up. Jolton decided, hey, it's time for me to drop Beck's dog. That's what they did between last stage and this time. Beck's doggies on Aqualix, and all of a sudden, Gaimin Gladiators, they're cursed, and they're not going to make top 6 if that's what sort of is foretold with the curse.
Uh, you know, so obviously we'll have our time to talk about Nocturnes, especially when we end up getting the stats up. But with Gaimin Gladiators, we can talk curse. It feels like an easy out, but like it's true. What he brought to that team was really good. But we are looking at those players and we are looking at the rosters. And is it roles aren't being filled properly, or what is not getting done on the side of Gaming Gladiators, Connor, that is preventing them from reaching the potential that a roster with those kind of names can have?
Yeah, the biggest thing is there's almost not really two true entry players anymore on this roster, and calling barring an entry is still sometimes like the way he plays makes me want to put it in quotation marks, because he truly isn't that follow the drone, get the map control on attack kind of player. The way he's going to find his impact and the way he's going to find his entry engagements are trying to, find the cheeky kills here and there and really trusting his gut, almost like a lurking entry. And sure, Quartz, he still can get involved in the early round, but he's almost best suited on like a flex type role. You don't really see Quartz bringing an LMG and running around with Zofia as his real mantra. When he's on a sledge, when he's on something a little bit more laid back, flex wise, more skill position, we want to use a football term, that's where he thrives. Now, if we transition over towards Nocturnes, every single one of these players can play entry except Poison. You have everybody would be completely fine rocking an LMG. You have Slothy bringing 0 and still doing damage, when last stage he was the one against one shot running around with an LMG dropping a 20 bomb because he can play entry. And then boom, Doc, Zeno, as well as Splash, they can all shoot. And Mr. P, Poison, like I said yesterday, he's the quote unquote worst mechanical on the team, but he can still shoot back too. This team
That
is just built that
that
way.
was a very quiet 13-7 from Doc. Like
Mm-hmm.
very under the radar. I mean, we know about that dual pistol, amazing, play to finish out that round number 8. But that third, I mean, 4-1 on entry. Those are impressive stats, and he flew under the radar. I'm actually pretty impressed because we all have these players. I mean, Zeno, let's say he dropped that massive 4K. Obviously, as we said, possible play of the day, but he was relatively quiet outside of that. But a 4K added to your stats makes them look a lot better, so you take what you can get. But we do have Mr. P ready for the interview. I'll jump back to talk to you guys about the matchup just after. Poison,
What's up?
another big win this weekend. Congratulations. You guys have got to be pretty happy with the way the weekend's turned out.
Yeah, for sure. It's been. I mean, we're always
Mhm.
confident in ourselves, but I would say getting 6 points is much better than how we started last stage. So we're super
Yeah.
happy.
Well, one of the things we talked about going into this weekend is you guys had some big games last stage, but you also had ones that really kept you down near the bottom. Is this the kind of turnaround stage that you're going to be looking for to not just win the games that are tough, but also win the games against some of the teams that you should be winning them against?
Yeah, an issue we had last stage was with like closing round or closing games mainly. Like there was a we it was kind of
Mhm.
weird. Like we felt we lost a lot of games that we shouldn't have, but we also like beat when our game plan worked. We could beat like top teams and could play really well.
Mhm.
So like it's more just this stage we just had to focus on closing rounds, and I think we kept composure a little bit better in these recent games. Um, I mean, yeah, that's really it. I mean, I went to Disney World for like a couple games, and Nick's had family issues, so we had one game where we had 2 subs and one game where we had a sub, so those were super scuffed, and I think both those games we probably could have won pretty easy with our full 5. So we had a
Eh,
couple like things in our way last stage, but the
yeah.
stage we're kind of ready to fix it, and really, because I think 10th place is not properly represent
No.
ourselves as a team. So
I mean, if you continue on this trajectory, the sky's the limit. But one final question for you. Just tell us a bit, I guess not question. I'm just asking you, tell us a bit about Doc because he's had some quietly good performances so far.
I could talk about how good Doc is all day. I mean, he's just like the perfect player. He's like the perfect balance of like good comms while not being like over on it.
Hmm.
He's really smart. He can call plays, but he's again not over the top with it. He's good vibes, but also can be serious and have fun. Like he's a good friend of mine. He plays ranked all day. He was #1 champ last season, 10,000
Mm.
elo. Like he's always grinding the game. He's just a really good player. He's smart. He has good aim. He can kind of do whatever, and he's just like he's just like a smart ass player, and he can kind of help
Hmm.
like kind of keep everyone in the round while I'm IGLing it too, just making sure everyone's positioned right. So yeah, Doc's really good comms, really good aim. Like Doc, there's are many weak points in Doc's game, I would say.
Well, you've sold me for the season. I'm excited to see how everything turns out moving forward. Best of luck, Poison.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right,
Okay, so we've had a day now where we've had all sorts of different games. We've had 5 matches. What is it? 2 or 3 of them have gone to overtime today. It feels like they've all gone to overtime because at least they've all felt like they've gone the